a win, a huge win for the Sixers as they came home, welcomed the Timberwolves team, a very good Timberwolves team, mind you, and they absolutely owned them in the second half. So we welcome you here to Sixers Postgame Live, brought to you by Cure Auto Insurance. Amy Fiddle, the coach, Jim Lynam, and Mark Jackson alongside. And gentlemen, we have to talk about the third quarter. And usually when I talk about the third quarter, it's not necessarily the best thing, but it was the best thing about this game tonight. They won that third quarter, Coach, 42-24 to really put the Timberwolves on their heels, and then they were able to close it out in the fourth.
Yeah, that was 42 in the third after 41 in the first half.
First half, right?
Yeah, the Sixers, they looked like they were struggling. Well, they didn't look like they were struggling mightily, but you talk about a bounce back, huge momentum boost for them with that third quarter.
Third quarter was big, and there's so many guys that contributed. We're going to talk about all of them. Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre, VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. But most importantly, it's where the Sixers stand right now in those Eastern Conference standings. Going into tonight, right now they're in sixth, and that's important because you see that line there, Mark Jackson. That means that you are secured a playoff spot. You do not have to worry about the play-in tournament. You get a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of a distance there as you can put further the Raptors in your rear view, the Hornets, the Magic, all those teams. The most important thing, and you've been preaching it, you have to take care of business, Mark, and this is the example of that. You took care of a very good Timberwolves team tonight.
A wonderful Timberwolves team, and the Sixers stepped up big and got the win at home. What an effort. The energy was so live in the building. This team played like they knew what was at stake, baby. There was no letdown. Even though Timberwolves played tremendous first half, second half, you mentioned it, the third quarter was all Sixers' way, and everyone contributed in that.
Yeah, it was a really big second half, mainly that third quarter, which is unusual. We all know for that. But that is their Colonial Nissan game changer. A 15-1 run to end the third quarter. So Joel Embiid, and listen, Joel Embiid started this game 1 for 10. Both teams really struggling. So you see they're down to about 2.5 minutes to go. Coach, they really just, sometimes I guess a team knows what they need to do, and I felt like they were like, all right, listen, we're not messing around.
Yeah, they got very aggressive. Obviously, they started making shots, a huge three by Joel there. And he and Maxey really led the way.
Yeah.
They got...
So this is going to be Quentin Grimes on the run right there, coming off the bench. 10 points for him, exactly. 10 points, 4 rebounds. And this, so Maxey, you mentioned, Coach, Maxey and Joel Embiid, they had 42 points. 30 of those 42 came from Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
And a lot of it came off of plays like this, where their defense knocked it loose, and they were able to get out in the open floor.
Yeah, Mark Jackson, when you're sitting out there and you know what your team's done in the third quarter and you know where you are in the standings, you know how important each game is. You heard Kelly Oubre with Kate Scott and Al Labs and Abby afterwards. They know what this game means. But when you have plays like that, how energizing is it when you get those momentum plays like Coach was showing us?
This team is playing fast tonight, Amy. Look, let me tell you something. I know you see we show you a bunch of highlights in transition, but let me tell you what contributed to a lot of those was Paul George. I know we have him down for 3 steals. He had to at least have 7 or 8 deflections alone. His momentum on the defensive end and the way they got on transition, everybody's picking a turn to get out. But with that being said, this Sixers team played with a chip on their shoulder and energy to show it.
Well, Kelly Oubre really put this game away. We showed you how they took over that third quarter on 15-1 run, and that you're looking at Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey coming through in the third. Well, the fourth quarter belonged to Kelly Oubre. He had 16 points of his 21 coming in the final frame. That's huge because you can see this is a Timberwolves team that was not going away. Yes, Anthony Edwards was a little bit humbled on this one. I know he was coming back. He had been sick. He was 0 for 7 from 3, but they had Dante DiVincenzo. They have Julius Randle, Dosunmu, who had a really nice game. Bones Highland was a game changer for them in the first half. But Kelly Oubre, Coach, really putting this team on his back late. And he has those type of plays, those aggressive type of plays that really energizes the rest of the team.
Yeah, and one of the things I like, this team, Amy, when somebody gets it going, they look to that guy. And Oubre was a classic example of that in this fourth quarter. They couldn't guard him, and his teammates knew it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that he's such an energy guy, and he's always going to bring it, Mark. We know that. But when his shots are falling, Coach mentioned it, everyone's going to try to find him because he's always going to be in the right place at the right time, too. Absolutely,
Amy, because he knows he's going to find a way to contribute in the game on both ends of the floor. And his energy is so contagious, Amy. It is so contagious that they look for him to be like that energizer party starter, and he brings it every night.
It was 4 of 6 from 3.
Man,
that's
lights
really
out.
important. And the crowd was obviously really into it, and they knew it was a really big game. The Sixers knew it was a really big game. There's only a handful of games left. They want to stay in that 6th spot. It's really, really important. And so you can see them when they're celebrating at the end, and VJ comes over. Like that's kind of the camaraderie you see with this team. And Coach, you've been a part of it on the coaching side of it, Mark, obviously on the player side. How important is that kind of camaraderie when you're in the crux of this kind of playoff hunt?
No, there's no substitute for it, to be honest with you. You feed on one another's play when you make plays like we watched them making there in that second half. And for them to express that emotion, I think, it's good teams have it, plain and simple.
Yeah, and Mark, they started off so rough. At one point, they were shooting about 30% from the field. It was like 1 of 8 or 1 of 11 from 3. It was not a great start for them. How important is it for them to go in at halftime and realize that's not what we're – Coach mentioned it, 41 points at that. That's not who we are. We have to come back, regroup, and really come out on fire in the third quarter. Because that's not – it's easier to say than it is to do.
Absolutely, Amy. But if you look at the trend, like we was like this last game, too.
Yeah.
The other team was hot in the first half. We calmed it down. Defense picked up a notch. Their offense came down, and Sixers prevailed. I think the biggest difference is the Sixers not just stepped up their defense, but they allowed those possessions to include fast break layups in transition, which helps them a lot.
And 5 players scoring in double figures.
Yes.
2 of which are coming off the bench when you look at Quentin Grimes and Kelly Oubre. But that's not to say Dominic Barlow and some of the other guys who didn't necessarily get in double figures weren't impactful. They really were, and we're going to talk about them coming up. But, Coach, when you look up and down on a night like this where you have these are all kind of must-win games, to have that kind of contribution, that sharing of the wealth, I would think that has to go a long way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought they could have been in big trouble were it not for Barlow's first quarter. He was sensational in the first quarter. And then, as you said, Timberwolves not going away. It's still an 8-10 point game. Oubre does it in the fourth quarter. And who did it in the third? Well, Joel and Tyrese Maxey. So you're right. Combination, different guys helping at different times. That's what good teams are about.
Yeah, you mentioned Joel Embiid and what a difference the first half to the second half was for him because, as I said, they were not shooting well at all in the first half. It was definitely one of those games where the Sixers really struggled. Joel Embiid among them, as I mentioned, he was started 1 for 10. But then you look at the way he was able to close out in the second half. Part of that 15-1 run, he and Maxey combining for 30 points in the third quarter. You can see that. 4 points in the first half, 15 in the second half. And this is a game where you need him fresh. I thought you saw him very active. The footwork was excellent. We all know that. But he was running up and down. Does the play of like a Kelly Oubre and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, even Dominic Barlow, does that energize him? Because he did not play against the Wizards, and he comes out a little bit slow. You're wondering, Mark, is this going to be a little bit of a hangover? And it really wasn't.
But he has help, Amy. So even when he's not being super aggressive or assertive early or throughout the game, he always have guys now in this roster that can pick it up for him, and he did just that. But not just that, he finds other ways to contribute. Look at a double-double tonight. He has some incredible passes for his teammates, and he's played the game the right way. That means if somebody else is hot, I'm going to keep feeding.
Yeah, you mentioned it. 13 rebounds to go with 7 assists, so he was everywhere and then some. I mean, here's a player, 3 blocks as well, Coach. He really seems to be moving well, and I know people will say what they will about the injury management, but if it meant having 19 games off during that 25-game suspension for Paul George to get this, I think it's probably worth it.
Yeah, and with respect, yes, he had 3 block shots, but that's about as active as I have seen him defensively. He was switching out on guys on the perimeter. He was coming from the other side of the lane. And, when he wants to shut the basket down, obviously he can still do that. It's just a really outstanding game by him on both ends of the court.
Yeah, it was great to see against that one. That was a great block right there. Kind of came out of nowhere, but these are things that you want to see from him as far as him jumping, him running. These are things you look forward to see, how his knee's holding up, how obviously the oblique, if it's still bothering him. And Mark, I have to say this is about as a complete game as we've seen from him in a while.
That's a perfect way to put it, Amy, because his athleticism is not what it was 10 years ago, but I'll tell you his effort was definitely what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
His effort was all over the place on the offensive end, scoring buckets, as well as being super active and assertive on the defensive end, and really fighting for rebounds, too. I really love that part of his game. But the best thing is he had a few plays late in the game where he was able to get out to the three-point shooters and run them off that line. I was like, all right, Joel, you feeling it tonight. So, listen, I know he had a marginal game based on his efforts but he still played good enough to get a win.
Right.
So we'll take it all day.
Listen, 7 assists, 1 turnover. He was a plus 15 in the game. They won by 8. That shows you his impact in about 34 minutes of work.
Played a song.
There it is, everybody. Clap your hands. The Sixers get their 43rd win of the season, securing right now. They're sitting in that 6th spot. Hopefully they can hold on to it. We'll talk more about this game, including the contributions of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Dominic Barlow, who Coach shouted out just a moment ago. But Sixers get the win. We're also going to hear from Nick Nurse coming up here. Sixers Postgame Live is brought to you by Cure Auto Insurance.